From ABC-7 New York, this is Eyewitness News Extra Time.
Remembering a true American icon, Harry Belafonte has died at the age of 96. Even if you think you don't know Harry Belafonte, you know Harry Belafonte.
Live 6 and 7 and 8 and bunch.
Fittingly born in 1927 in Harlem, Belafonte became the Harlem Renaissance personified.
I and my brothers and sisters were the first to be educated.
In the 1950s, he broke down barriers and jump-started new eras in both music and film. But being a true Renaissance man, his massive cultural impact will only be a piece of his legacy. If Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was the heart of the civil rights movement in the United States, Belafonte was the backbone, supporting the fight for equal rights for black Americans using his own money and influence.
If history is any measure, then I'd probably wind up on the right side of the equation.
Tonight, we dig deeper into the amazing life of Harry Belafonte, from his deep connection to New York City to his achievements across entertainment and advocacy, which will continue to be felt for generations to come. Good evening and welcome to this edition of Eyewitness News Extra Time. I'm Joe Torres. Harry Belafonte died this morning in his home on Manhattan's Upper West Side of congestive heart failure. He lived nearly a century, but his list of accomplishments is long and broad enough for several lifetimes. Tonight we celebrate the New York native's three distinct life endeavors, those of a singer, actor, and activist. Entertainment reporter Sandy Kenyon starts us off with a look back at Belafonte's life and legacy.
He was called the King of Calypso, but became a Prince of Peace and a moral beacon for all of us.
My social activism, things that I believed in politically.
Harry Belafonte's activism eventually overshadowed his work as a singer, but he was the first solo artist to sell 1 million albums and spent more than half a year on the top of the charts with the Banana Boat song. He was a gifted actor even before that, earning a Tony Award for his debut on Broadway, becoming the first black American to win an Emmy for his TV work, after paving the way for others in the movies.
Cut that out.
Belafonte was born in Harlem to immigrants from Jamaica in 1927. He said watching his parents struggle awakened in him a passion for social justice.
And I felt that since the earliest days of my real understanding of what it meant to be poor. Poverty clarified that for me.
As one of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s closest confidants, he helped plan the March on Washington in 1963.
As artists and as human beings, we rejoice in the knowledge that human experience has no color.
In 1968, Belafonte took over The Tonight Show for an entire week, as shown in a recent documentary.
Harry Belafonte at 11 o'clock, late night, was saying, we're here, we're Americans. We're part of this. We're not going anywhere.
Belafonte was the father of 4 children from 2 marriages. His daughter, Sherry Belafonte, followed in the footsteps of a man who transcended show business to become a true statesman.
If history is any measure, then I'd probably wind up on the right side of the equation.
Sandy Kenyon, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Harry Belafonte was a lot of things to a lot of different people, but make no mistake, he was a New Yorker. Today in the city where he was born, the tributes poured in. The message on the marquee outside the Apollo Theater in Harlem honored Belafonte. Eyewitness News reporter Kimberly Richardson has more on that part of the story.
A final salute from a caregiver as Harry Belafonte's body is transferred out of his home here on the Upper West Side. His wife, Pam, by his side.
He was a wonderful, wonderful man and had a beautiful journey and did a lot of good for a lot of people. And he's in a very peaceful place.
Belafonte's son David, his wife and 2 kids saying, to the world he was a legend, but to us he was Dad. Gina Belafonte sharing this beautiful picture, calling her father her guiding light, a complicated dad who lived one of the fullest lives in human history. The 96-year-old's reach and impact, both far and strong. The reason Sarah came here, Her family is from Cuba.
His endurance across the different phases of American life are so transformative, and he worked at a lot of different intersections.
Mayor Eric Adams saying Belafonte didn't just speak truth to power, he shouted it, he sang it. He made people listen to that truth. Reverend Al Sharpton calling his friend an unmatchable intellectual, something former Congressman Charles Rangel knows all too well. The pair, along with Dr. King, marched 54 miles from Selma to Montgomery.
You would think that he walked on water when he was president of the group, but a more gentle guy, except when he had the fire of what had to be done.
That tenacity, Colin Kaepernick thanking Belafonte for mentoring and guiding him, sharing Belafonte's own words, quote, "Movements don't die because struggle doesn't die." Pam tells me that desire to do the right thing, fight the good fight, even in his final days, Belafonte was unstoppable.
Right till the end.
Does that surprise you?
No, not at all. That's who Harry was.
On the Upper West Side, Kimberly Richardson, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Now a closer look at Belafonte's life as an activist and advocate for civil rights. You just heard from former New York Congressman Charlie Rangel. He sat down with Eyewitness News anchor Sandra Bookman today. He told her he hopes Belafonte's accomplishments in this area do not get swept under the rug. Rangel also detailed the last conversation he had with his friend.
I think that people don't know just how important he was to the movement. Not the money, not the stardom, but the fire. And I don't know how he did it, but whether he was talking with presidents, governors, Dr. King, or the leaders of the world, or someone in Lenox Avenue in a basement about what we were going to do next, it was Harry Belafonte. And he was not one that looked for the press conference except where it was needed. The depth of his commitment to the world and to our country is totally unbelievable when you see he's lauded for the banana song and calypsos and his acting ability, just a world that's out there. But the Harry Belafonte that I was mesmerized by is the eloquence of his expression of how important it was to bring our country and our people together. And I don't truly believe, and it's hard for me to know, that he's remembered for his work in civil rights as much as he is for Deo.
You said you had a chance to speak with him recently. Tell me a little bit about that visit, and how did you find him?
I found him so fiery and talking about what we had to do, and I felt so awkward because I realized my physical handicaps, and I also, of course, like most people, you always feel inadequate when he tells you what we have to do, because nobody has the energy that he had and had demonstrated, and just stimulated people to do things that they didn't believe that they could do. And so I was more awed and taken back at the degree of his energy when his voice was fragile. He was using a walker like I did. And I was so pleased when I was getting ready to leave that his wife winked at me and she says, "You know, we're not doing those things." And I was so pleased because I knew I couldn't do it. But the moral of the story was his mind was still out there encouraging me to do more with other people, to see what we had to do, that the battle had no way been completed. And I just felt so good wherever we've been at meetings that we never got a chance to speak, and he'll be sitting there, and I would be sitting here, and we didn't have to say a word, because everyone at that meeting would sense the urgency of his time and what we had to do, and how proud we were to be associated with him. We've lost a great person, and we can sing all the songs and see the old movies, but the civil rights movement would never have the excitement that it did without Harry Belafonte.